I've been in the trenches fighting for consumers in the car world for years, calling out the nonsense, the hidden fees, the tech that promises the world but delivers headaches and higher costs. And last week, something landed that genuinely has me concerned, because it seems like the pushback, it's just not working. On July 7th, 2026, the European Union flipped the switch on the next phase of the General Safety Regulation. I love these terms because when they say general and safety, it's far from that. From now on, every new passenger car and van registered anywhere in the EU, the European Union, must come with an interior-facing camera as part of the Advanced Driver Distraction Warning System, or ADDW. We've talked about this before. The driver attention monitoring systems, many of you have that feature on your vehicle already. This system activates at just 20 kilometers per hour. That's about 12 miles an hour, which isn't fast. And it tracks your eyes, your head position, how long you look away from the road, whether you seem drowsy or distracted. And then it's supposed to give you a warning to snap you back to attention. The European Parliament bundled it with other requirements. Of course they did. Advanced emergency braking that can spot pedestrians and cyclists, expanding safety glass around to protect people outside of the vehicle in the event of a collision, and tougher real-world tests for tires. All of this is being sold under their big zero vision goal, 0 road deaths by 2050. That is a good thing, but the way they're going about it, maybe not so good. On the surface, who wouldn't argue with saving lives? Any reasonable person wants fewer crashes caused by people not paying attention. And this is always how they get you. They start with these little teeny changes. You accept them, and then suddenly it changes everything about the way you drive and the way you live. But let's cut through the spin right from the start. They just made it mandatory for a camera to sit there in every car, pointed directly at the driver's face, watching you while you drive. Officially, the system is supposed to operate in a closed loop for now, and everything is supposed to stay inside the car and just alerts for you. No footage automatically recording or sent off to some government server or insurance company. Yet. There's no requirement for today for authorities to access anything. That's what they always say. Start with it's just you, no one else gets it, and then suddenly everybody has it. The government, the insurance companies, they're selling the data. All of this always turns on you. It starts small and gets big. I hear that and I think, sure, but once that hardware, the camera, the sensors, the processing software is bolted into millions of vehicles straight from the factory, how difficult is it really for someone to decide later that it needs to be more safety, more connectivity? But before I break this down, I want to remind you to like and subscribe and click the bell for notifications so you keep up to date on these massive changes to your transportation freedom. So we've seen this exact pattern play out many times. It started with the seatbelt. It's a good idea. That saved countless lives. Then anti-lock brakes. Then mandatory backup cameras after tragic reversing accidents, all good things. And each step sounded non-negotiable, but very reasonable. And each one added more sensors, more connectivity, more eyes on what's happening in and around your vehicle. Now we've reached the point where the camera is inside, staring at you. If you think this is just some quirky European thing that won't touch us here in North America, think again. The U.S. Congress already passed the requirement for the 2021 infrastructure bill for advanced impaired driving prevention technology, which we call the kill switch, which involves similar in-cabin monitoring. And NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, says the passive detective technology isn't fully ready yet, but the direction is clear. The government wants to be Big Brother everywhere, including inside your vehicle. And this was passed under the Biden administration. So let's dig into why this is happening right now. The official explanation from the EU is straightforward and hard to dismiss on the numbers alone. Driver distraction, drowsiness, and inattention are major contributors to serious crashes. They want tools that actively help keep people focused, especially on the roads, as they get busier and vehicles get more complex with infotainment screens everywhere. Actually, I would just rather get rid of those infotainment screens. They're too distracting. Many of them are huge and more information than you really need to be driving on the road. They gave manufacturers extra time to develop the more technologically demanding features because judging a driver's gaze and attention level accurately is tricky. And it's not just a simple timing or a lane change nudge. It has to be more information in order to be accurate. But those systems don't exist, and the system has stricter rules at higher speeds, which makes sense on the highways. Now it's important to mention that all this new technology comes at a higher price tag for you. And now that it's at the halfway point of the year, this is a perfect time to reflect on your financial goal that you set in January that you still haven't tackled. With the cost of everything getting more expensive, it's harder to meet your current credit card goals and improve your credit rating. Some friends of mine were just talking about this, and I suggested using today's video sponsor, Kickoff.
Kickoff. Users with credit under 600 grow an average of 86 points just by paying on time. With transparent, affordable plans starting at just $5 per month, no hidden fees, and zero interest, Kickoff helps you score big when it comes to credit. It's simple. You make on-time payments, credit bureaus see good behavior, and your credit can grow fast. Plus, the rent reporting feature helps you build credit with the rent you already pay. Every positive on-time rent payment gets reported to help boost your credit. Start building credit immediately for only $1 for your first month. Set up autopay so you never have to worry about a payment, and sign up in minutes from your phone. No credit check, no hidden fees, no interest. With over 1 million users and hundreds of thousands of positive reviews, there's a reason why Kickoff is the #1 credit builder on the App Store. Start building credit with Kickoff today and get your first month for as little as $1. That's 80% off the normal price when you go to getkickoff.com/fix today. That's Kickoff without the C. getkickoff.com/fix. You must sign up by getkickoff.com/fix to activate offer. Offer applies to new Kickoff customers first month only, subject to approval. Offer subject to change. Average first year credit score impact of plus 86 points between August 2024 and August of 2025 for Kickoff credit account users who started with a score below 600 who paid on time and who had no delinquencies or collections added to their credit profile during the period. Late payments may negatively affect your credit score. Individual results may vary. And now back to Lauren.
Let's talk about the goal of all these safety, sensor, and tracking systems. Nobody wants families hurt because someone was glancing at their phone too long or glancing at their phone at all. But here's what keeps nagging me as someone who's spent decades advocating for smart, practical consumer protections in cars. We've already had plenty of dumb systems that remind you to take a break after 2 or 3 hours on the road. We've had lane keeping assist, forward collision warnings, and all kinds of alerts. But here's a whole different level, and here's why. This new technology has an active camera and infrared sensors studying your face in real time and deciding whether you're attentive enough, deciding if you're fit to drive. Why the rush to mandate this hardware in literally every new vehicle instead of doubling down on proven things like stricter enforcement or existing distracting driving laws, better road infrastructure, better education for drivers, better education campaigns, or pushing harder for vehicle technology that actually reduces the need for perfect human attention in the first place? I've covered enough mandates and laws to recognize the playbook. Each one starts with the best intentions and is supported by crash statistics. Each one layers more technology, more cost, and more oversight into vehicles that consumers have to buy and live with every day. The investigation into this one keeps leading me back to the same place. This feels less like a targeted fix for one problem and more like an installation of a permanent observation infrastructure under the banner of safety. And once it's in every car, it becomes normal, and normal is hard to roll back. I should mention that driver attention technology is not new. Some cars 20 years ago had automatic timers that would trigger after a few hours of driving, asking you to stop and rest to get a cup of coffee. Newer cars use infrared sensors and look at your eyes and determine if you're looking at the road. If you don't look up, it'll remind you to look up at the road or turn off cruise control. And in some more advanced vehicles, it'll put on your hazard lights and automatically pull you over on the road. But it's important to remember that these are optional features, not mandatory. Tesla tracks your face and your hands to ensure that you're paying attention while you're using their full self-driving or autopilot features. Regulating or mandating this technology, well, that's the problem. This is where I really want you to pay attention because this is not part of the mainstream headlines. They're not connecting this. The EU's interior camera mandate doesn't stand alone. It fits into a much larger pattern of surveillancing infrastructure being built piece by piece, justifying every step along the way as safety or security. And look at what's already happening on roads right here in North America and Canada. Those flock safety camera networks that cities installed, pitched primarily as license plate readers to help recover stolen cars and solve crimes, well, a police whistleblower came forward and described something far more expansive. These systems use sophisticated AI that doesn't just read your plates. They capture the vehicle's make, model, color, bumper stickers, you name it. The data gets shared between the departments across cities, states, and other places, often without individual warrants or broad public debate. When one police chief was asked why residents weren't consulted, the response was essentially that they didn't want criminals to know about the cameras and to avoid the areas. And that tells you the operating philosophy. Ordinary drivers and citizens are potential subjects for monitoring first, all in the name of keeping everyone safe. Now layer that external tracking on top of the new internal cameras in Europe, watching your face while you drive, and add in that connected car data we already know is flowing out of vehicles. Remember the New York Times investigation showing companies like General Motors and Honda sharing detailed driving behavior, hard braking, acceleration, late night trips, speeding patterns with data brokers who then sold it to insurance companies to adjust your rates upward? Well, your car was already acting as a snitch on how you drive. The cabin camera just added a visual evidence of exactly when and why you might have been distracted. What the hell? Even George Orwell wouldn't have imagined this. We are reaching levels of surveillance state dystopia that used to be fiction. Now we can look at 1984, Watch Dogs, Minority Report, Fahrenheit 451, Cyberpunk, Brave New World, and V for Vendetta for reference, because it looks like we're there. And in Canada, they've been battling serious car theft rings, especially with higher-end vehicles. And suddenly, there's more discussion around tracking technology, immobilizers, and even remote kill switch capabilities to shut down vehicles. The cheese in the mousetrap is that they try to draw you in with legitimate problems: theft, distracted driving, road safety, and once the hardware is installed everywhere, the trap closes with capabilities for monitoring, scoring, and control that go way beyond the original pitch. Like I mentioned, Tesla has used cabin cameras for years as part of their autopilot and full self-driving systems, but it's tied to actually advancing the vehicle toward handling more driving tasks itself, reducing human error at the source. Europe went the route of watching the human more closely instead. Incredible! We're going to be watched 24/7 by Big Brother. Data centers keep expanding capacity for a reason. Video feeds, sensor data, behavior problems from inside and outside of your vehicle. Someone has to store and process all of this. This is how you quietly normalize mass monitoring without one giant announcement that would scare the heck out of people. You start with it as, it only gives warnings. You install the hardware universally under safety rules. Then when the next high-profile crash or crime happens, the calls come out for use the existing systems more effectively for public safety. The hardware doesn't disappear. The rules around it expand. We are right around the corner from a police state, and if drivers and consumers don't start connecting these dots and pushing back while we still can, this is no longer tinfoil hat territory. This is pattern recognition that is being used against you, and it's already happening. Let's follow the money, because that's where the real motivation becomes obvious. Insurance companies stand to gain the most from richer, more detailed driver behavior data. They already buy telematics information for pennies and use it to profile risk, your risk. Add a camera that can timestamp exact moments of distraction or drowsiness. That's incredibly valuable for adjusting premiums or denying coverage on many cases. And automakers get to charge more for mandating technology while checking the regulatory compliance box and passing every single dollar back to you, the consumer, in the sticker price. The suppliers who make these interior cameras and infrared systems and sensors and AI processing software just landed a guaranteed continued wide market growth. Data brokers and the broader surveillance technology industry expand their reach and revenue streams. That's your money. More data points to aggregate, more profiles to sell, bigger government and corporate contracts. Who loses? The consumer. Every single time. Higher new car prices when vehicles are already expensive enough, reduced privacy in what used to be personal space, and the slow creep of your driving life is being scored and shared and potentially used against you. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is basic economics and a regulatory capture playing out in real time. Here's why every single one of you watching or reading this should care, even if you don't buy a new car tomorrow. Your vehicle has always been one of the last true private spaces for most people, a place where you could go and have a private conversation, make a hands-free call, yawn or adjust the radio, or just drive without feeling observed. That boundary is eroding fast. Even if today's rules limit cameras to in-car warnings, the hardware creates the permanent technology ability for recording, real-time scoring, insurance adjustments, or data handoffs later. We know it's coming. New cars will cost more with all this mandated data. Used cars without it will be a smarter buy for a while until supply shrinks or insurers and regulators start penalizing older vehicles, maybe not even letting you insure it. Don't worry, that's coming. Just wait, and we've covered it. Your daily commute, your family, your road trips, your late night drives home, all of it could feed into your behavioral profiles that affect your insurance, your freedom, or worse. I'm not anti-safety. I've fought for better crash test protection and transparent consumer information my entire career, but I am against quietly turning personal transportation into a rolling government-approved informant without the people who actually pay for it and drive these cars having any real say. This changes the fundamental relationship between you and your vehicle and between citizens and regulators. The car is now watching you as much as you're watching the road, and that should concern every driver. So what can you actually do starting today? Get practical and protect yourself while options still exist. If you're in the market for a vehicle, I strongly consider a solid used or certified pre-owned model before those full mandates hit. No factory installed face camera watching you. When shopping for a new vehicle, ask the dealer exactly what does this camera capture. You might be able to find some of that on the manufacturer's website as well. Where does any of this data go? Can the owner disable it or limit the monitoring functions? Read every single privacy policy. I know it'll take a while. And data sharing disclosure like your wallet and freedom depend on it, because it does. Advocate loudly for real limits on vehicle-generated data collection and sharing without clear, explicit consumer consent. Believe me, elected officials actually want to hear this. Light up their phones, send them emails, talk to them in person. Support transparency requirements for insurers and automakers. On the technology side, the smarter, longer-term path to fewer crashes isn't watching drivers more intensely. It's accelerating systems that reduce or eliminate the heavy reliance on constant, perfect human attention. Advanced driver assistance systems work. They actually can intervene reliably would be good. And eventually well-regulated autonomous cars, which I don't think we're going to be seeing for decades to come, unless every vehicle on the road is autonomous, and I'm not really into amusement rides, but that's a possibility. Tackle the root cause instead of punishing the systems. That's really the way to go. Europe chose more monitoring on drivers. We still have time to push for better. The bigger question this whole situation leaves us with is bigger than the one we started with. Is this once cameras like this are mandatory in virtually every new car for safety and the external tracking networks are already in place? How long before the system naturally expands to constant recordings, automatic enforcement, data sharing with authorities, or other forms of control? We're installing the eyes and the infrastructure right now. The rules for what those eyes report and who sees it and what happens with that information get written later, often after the public has already accepted the hardware as normal. Drivers, they need a wake-up call. Pay close attention, make informed choices, and demand better while we still have leverage to do so. Your car should serve you, not the other way around. What do you think? I'm sure your comments will be quite interesting.